My controversial Harry Potter take: Harry should have stayed dead.
What? What? That's what you think?
Yeah, that's what I think.
Welcome back to Storyology. Today, we're going to rewrite the ending of Harry Potter without Harry Potter. And not just in a fun, fan fiction-y sort of way, but because the ending we got was fine, but it could have been so much more. Harry woke up in King's Cross Station as the Master of Death, and all he did was come back to life. The Harry I know would have done so much better than that. So we're going to jump into the story right about here. Actually, I'll need to back it up to about here to fix one small detail first. Then we're going to play out a whole new ending where Harry doesn't just come back to life, defeat Voldemort, and live happily ever after. He truly becomes the Master of Death. In addition to that, a few other things could use a good rewrite too. How about the epilogue? Let's fix that. Or better yet, let's repurpose it and make it part of the story. Voldemort's defeat? The book and the movie handled the final battle very differently, but both are just sort of empty. And that's because Harry had already defeated Voldemort by sacrificing his life. That was the actual climax, not the fight in the Great Hall. Maybe there's a better way for Voldemort to meet his demise. Or how about the Hallows? They have no sort of satisfying conclusion even though the final book is named after them. We'll fix that too. Overall, I get the feeling that Rowling really just wanted Harry to come back in the end and have a normal happy life, even though the story she wrote for him set him up for something extraordinary. And in the end, she took the safe option, because nothing about Harry's decision to return to life made any narrative sense. Harry didn't say that he had so much love for Ginny that he would undo death just to be with her. He never said that he had to return to fulfill some personal life mission that he had. He became an Auror, but didn't he just eliminate the job market for that line of work by defeating Voldemort? Maybe if he chose to be Hogwarts Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher, ending the curse on the position and allowing Harry to live out his adult life in the place he calls home, but we didn't even get that. All he said was he needed to go back to finish off Voldemort. But then while he was back finishing off Voldemort, he tells Voldemort that everyone in the castle is protected by his sacrifice in the same way that he was protected by his mother's sacrifice. Voldemort was already defeated. And speaking of his mother, no mention of how badly he wants to be with his parents, no reflection on all the lessons about death that he's learned that got him to this point. Harry coming back in the way that he did just sapped so much of the meaning out of the entire story. So let's return to the forest and give Harry the ending that I believe he had always been preparing for. Dun 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 dun. Alright, let's start with that one change that I mentioned, which happens right about here. So, the Resurrection Stone does not summon ghosts, it brings back the dead. Harry's loved ones would have been actual, real, living humans who can touch him, hug him, kiss him, and anyone else would be able to see them. So before Harry can take his final steps to Voldemort, he will need to turn the stone 3 times again to send his loved ones back. So we're adding a little bit to the lore because we never saw the stone unresurrect anyone, but we're making that a thing and you'll see why later. Now we fast forward. Voldemort strikes Harry down. He wakes up between life and death where Dumbledore helps Harry understand how he survived, why Voldemort is finally defeated, and that Harry now has one final choice. They are in King's Cross Station after all, and Harry can in fact board a train. And here is where we intervene and take the ending in a whole new direction. Harry looks around the pristine train station. "I can choose?" said Harry. "Being the Master of Death comes with certain privileges," Dumbledore responded. Harry imagined stepping on a train and speeding off to be reunited with his mom and dad. The thought of them brought a light to his face, but then a shadow crept over him. "Voldemort," said Harry. "He's still alive." "He is." "I must go back," he said. "I have to finish him, for good." "My dear boy, you've already done what you had to do. Now you are truly free to do what you wish to do." "But you cast your mother's spell by walking into that forest. Your mother cast it over you, and it protected you from Voldemort's evil. You cast your love over every person in Hogwarts. Voldemort will continue his attack, but he does not have the power of death with him anymore. You took that power from him. You are the Master of Death. But you hesitate to go on." "I just want to make sure they'll be okay." "My dear boy, this is truly a wonderful place. All these trains, anywhere and anywhen you wish to go." Harry looked around at King's Cross. A gleaming steam engine came barreling toward him and a door opened to him. He looked at Dumbledore, who motioned for him to step on. Harry grabbed the steel handle and pulled himself inside. In an instant, the train took off at full speed, faster than light. Harry felt himself flung backwards, but he never hit the back of the car. He just tumbled and tumbled until gravity took him at last and planted him onto a flagstone floor. His head stopped swimming, and he was in a familiar place. It was September 1st, The year unclear. Harry stood among a bustling crowd on platform 9 3/4 as a phantom. The Hogwarts Express exactly the same as when he first saw it the day his real life began. A child ran past him, a flaming red blur that drew his eye. A young red-headed boy, a spitting image of his best friend on the day that he met him. Was this that day? No, the child was different. He turned around and smiled. Ron never had those large front teeth. Those were... "Harry Fred Weasley," called a familiar voice. Harry's heart stopped at the sight of Hermione, fully grown, with an expression of loving exasperation. Trailing behind her was her husband, Ron. Slightly weathered, but a childlike delight came over him at the sight of the scarlet steam engine. He was hunched, not with age, but holding the hand of a lovely little girl at his side, with bushy brown hair like her mother's, and freckles on her nose and cheeks. "This is it, love," Ron said as he drew near Hermione. Harry came close enough to hear them. "You remember your first time seeing the train?" "I believe I remember you were quite timid, actually," Hermione said. "He's got your boldness then, I suppose. And not a speck of dirt on his nose." Harry laughed out loud with his friends. He took in the sight. A new year at Hogwarts was about to begin, and his friend's first child taking that train ride for the first time. This is the world Harry fought for. These were the ones he fought for it for. His gaze circled back to Ron and Hermione. Hermione said, "I wish he was here for this." "I think," said Ron, "he is." The moment was suddenly disrupted by a clatter near the train. Hermione sprang forward. Harry turned and saw the young Harry Weasley tumbled onto the ground, his trunk spilled on the floor. Hermione rushed forward with a flourish of her wand, put the trunk back together, folded and shut. But something caught Harry's eye among the robes and books, a shimmer of silvery gray, and something clicked in Harry's mind. As the kids loaded into the train, waved their goodbyes, blew their kisses, and the train took off from the station, Harry felt his own jolt, taking him away too. Next thing, he was back with Dumbledore in King's Cross. The shadow over Harry had passed. Realization dawned. "Shall we?" Harry waited. "There's something I need to take care of first," he said. Dumbledore gave Harry one of those piercing stares, then broke into a radiant smile. Harry turned away from the bright light before him and hopped onto a train going the opposite direction. Suddenly, Harry was back in the grime and the discomfort of the real world. He realized he was in Hagrid's tree branch arms being carried back to the castle. He took care not to move, hardly allowing himself to breathe, feeling the invisibility cloak tucked in his robes right where he had put it a life and death ago. He listened to the parley between Voldemort and the defenders of Hogwarts. He heard the spirit in Neville's exhortation and took heart, knowing how the battle would end once it restarted. He picked his spot. He lurched out of Hagrid's arms, swinging the invisibility cloak over him before anyone was able to realize what had happened. Hagrid's shout of surprise reignited the battle, and in the chaos of spells being fired back and forth, and a frantic search for Harry's body, Harry slipped out of the fray. He had a mission to complete. He ran full speed back to the forest for the last time. He could faintly hear the tumult from the castle as he traced his steps back to where he had resurrected his parents. It took him a moment of searching with his hands on the forest floor, then his fingers rolled over it. The resurrection stone. Only one more item to collect now. Harry followed the noise back to Hogwarts. The defenders were nearing the point of victory. Harry had returned to the entrance hall under the cloak, stone firmly in his hand. He saw a number of Death Eaters lying motionless on the ground, including Fenrir Greyback and Bellatrix Lestrange, a look of horror and shock on her face. He wondered who had finished her off. He stepped over upturned stone and smoldering ruins. The marble staircase was split with a wide fissure. There was a commotion in the great hall. Harry tiptoed closer. He heard the piercing voice of Lord Voldemort, not triumphant, but full of fear. Another voice shouted against him. Harry stepped inside the hall undetected and saw an incredible sight. A full circle of Hogwarts defenders, classmates, teachers, and the remainder of the Order, and all others surrounding Voldemort, alone in the middle. "Death will take you all!" shrieked Voldemort, as he cast wicked curses in all directions. The opposing voice to Voldemort's was Neville's, the one who was not chosen, choosing to step up anyway. He was not shouting at Voldemort, but instead shouted encouragement to his fellow defenders. "Hold strong," he shouted. "His spells have no power anymore." And Neville was right. Harry marveled at the sight. A golden dome of the protective Protego charm was being maintained by the defenders, containing Voldemort and his fury underneath it. At Neville's encouragement, all the wands casting the defensive dome raised higher, and the dome pushed in tighter around the Dark Lord. Voldemort grew more desperate, his spells increasing in force and in fury, but they could not break through the dome closing in around him. Voldemort's own spells deflected all around himself, and yet he kept casting more. He must have realized by now that the Elder Wand owed him no loyalty, but he couldn't comprehend why. He only screamed in rage until he was entirely enclosed by the dome in a bubble of his own deadly curses. With one final push, the defenders brought the dome completely over the Dark Lord, and his scream was muffled by the sound of his spells. It echoed into nothing, and the collective Protego spell faded out as well. When the light and smoke dissipated, everyone in the hall held their breath. Harry knew what they would see a split second before it became clear. Lord Voldemort, lying dead in the middle of the Great Hall, overwhelmed by his own killing curses. Nowhere for his broken soul to escape, not a Horcrux left to preserve him. An eruption of joy and relief took over the Great Hall. The Battle of Hogwarts was over. The Dark Lord was defeated. The defenders scattered in different directions around the ruined hall, finding friends, hugging loved ones, some tending wounds, others knelt over the dead. Harry saw Lupin and Tonks. He saw young Colin Creevey. He saw the Weasley family mourning over Fred. There was a significant number that had already gone on to the next life. Harry took in the fullness of the range of humanity around him, the sorrow, the joy, the companionship. Not a single person was alone, except for one. Voldemort had gone completely forgotten. Harry walked toward his dead body. He noticed nearby were Ron and Hermione embracing. Hermione was wiping Ron's tears over his slain brother. He heard Ron ask her, "Where's Harry?" He disappeared from Hagrid's arms. Harry made sure to walk past them close enough to draw their attention on his way to Voldemort's body. "I don't," began Hermione, but she stopped. "Did you—" Ron went quiet too. Harry made sure Ron and Hermione were looking in his direction. He stooped, invisible, over Voldemort's dead body. Dead like any common man. Near his cold, lifeless hand, the Elder Wand lay. Harry picked it up and took it under the cloak with him. Ron and Hermione stood upright. They saw the wand vanish. Harry made sure of it. Then he darted away, lifting the cloak just enough so that his sneakers would be visible for a moment to someone who was looking. He ran, looking back and saw his best friends following after him. Harry's heart began to race, the Elder Wand in his right hand, the Resurrection Stone closed in his left, and the invisibility cloak over top of it all. For the first time since they were formed, all three of the Deathly Hallows were joined back together. Harry's mission was almost complete, and he knew exactly where he wanted to do his final act. He ran through the castle, the place he called home, looking from ruin to ruin. He pointed the Elder Wand straight down to the floor. "Reparo," he whispered, and the ground beneath his feet leveled. The dust cleared, and its original state was restored. And from there, the spell spread, outward in all directions by the power of the Elder Wand. Ron and Hermione chased after their friend, but even they had to stop for a moment to take in the sight of the castle repairing itself all around them. A light like no other came over both of their faces. They redoubled their pace, following the direction of the reparation spell, up one level at a time. They had traveled this route countless times throughout the years. Harry was well ahead of them. He had reached the fat lady's portrait. She was gone somewhere, and the portrait was wide open. Harry scrambled through the round hole into the Gryffindor common room, which was putting itself back together as he ran through it to the spiral staircase, taking him up the tower to his dormitory. Harry dashed past his four-poster bed to the open window, looking over the entire castle. The sight of the reparations still spreading to every corner of the grounds, up every turret and tower. He looked around the dormitory. One last look at the place he loved most in the world. He took off the cloak, folded it neatly, and set it at the foot of Ron's bed. He lifted the Elder Wand. It had cast its last spell, the best spell that ever flowed from its tip. Harry took the wand, and he snapped it. He set the pieces on top of the cloak. Harry heard the footsteps of Ron and Hermione getting nearer. He held the Resurrection Stone in his fist. The stone had reunited him with his parents before, for a moment, and now it would again, forever. Not by bringing them to this world, but by sending him to theirs. He turned it over once in his hand. Ron and Hermione were running up the staircase now. "He's up here," he heard Ron shout. He turned the stone a second time. They were now clambering behind the door, unlatching it to enter. Harry looked that way. He turned the stone the third time, as the door swung open. the dormitory began fading to white around Harry. For a split second, as Harry was leaving this world with the stone and going on to the next, he met the eyes of his best friend. Ron looked right back into his, a moment of recognition striking his freckled face before there was nothing left but light. I saw him! Ron ran to the spot where Harry last stood. He was here! Then he wasn't! He looked right at me! Hermione came in right behind him, searching the room. They both looked out the open window at the healed world beneath them. They heard faint shouts of joy and celebration from the grounds below. Ron, look. Hermione was looking down at the foot of the bed, where Harry's invisibility cloak lay, with the broken pieces of the Elder Wand on them, and the Resurrection Stone nowhere to be seen, no longer in this world. Ron stood beside her. They put their arms around each other in silence. They looked long at the final gift left to them by Harry Potter, their best friend, the boy who lived, died, and became the Master of Death. All right. Well, that's the end. The end I would have loved to see. Let me know what you think about it, how you felt about it in the comments. I'd love to hear if you have any ideas of your own about how the series should have ended. Also, take a look at my previous video, which was more of a thematic analysis of the Harry Potter story as a whole, which was sort of the springboard into this video. And subscribe to the channel. There's not much on it yet, but I'll get another video out soon, and I don't want you to miss it. Goodbye till then.